Even though the introduction comes first in an essay, I recommend that students write the conclusion first, then go back and choose strategies to open the paper. That way, you're certain about where you're going, and so you're more certain to take your reader with you where you want them to go. The purpose of the conclusion is to return to the main point or focus of the essay, that is, your thesis statement. It should provide a context for the position you've taken or the topic you've chosen. It may summarize, that is, go back and revisit the main points of the paper, the points made in the body paragraph. But it needs to answer the question, so what? Why were you writing this paper? Aside from the fact that it was an assignment. Why did you choose this topic? What are you sharing that you feel the reader can benefit from? That is one of the points of the conclusion. Not simply to summarize, but to answer the question, so what? Why am I better off knowing what you have told me as the reader, you as the writer? The conclusion may also synthesize, that is, it shows relationships between and among ideas, and it provides a context so that the reader can apply and use the information. What is it that you're conveying so that the reader can understand this idea in relation to the world as a whole? How does it connect together? What web does it attach to? There are several strategies, and these are the things that you are to identify. You're asked to identify the point of your paper, that is, the so what, and you're also asked to identify the strategies. If you wanted to begin your paper with a story, then you could complete the story in the conclusion. You could predict the future, what's going to happen. You can relate the topic to a larger idea. You can provide thought-provoking information, a quotation or a statistic, to leave the reader to think about the idea that you've presented. And if it's a persuasive essay, you may also choose to ask the reader to act. You want them to do something in response to what you have told them. This handout is attached to the page on the essay website for conclusions. This is from the Writing Center at Harvard. Notice it says that your conclusion is the last chance you have to let the reader know the point you want to make. And that is the impression that stays with your reader. So there should be a sense of completeness and closure. I should feel like it is finished and that you have left me with something to consider or ponder. So it should close the discussion without closing it off, because you still want the reader to think about what you had to say. So it suggests that you go back to the first paragraph, to the idea and the thesis, that you conclude with simple language, that you use structure, that is, grammatical structure, to draw emphasis. You can conclude with a quotation in order to bring in a perspective or a reference to something larger. You can put a larger context. You can redefine a key term based on what you have presented to your reader. If you think back to Kate Daly's article, she sort of redefines friend for us or puts it in a new context. You can consider the implications of your argument, your position. What does that mean to your reader? And finally, these are things not to do. Don't simply summarize. Don't simply remind your reader of what you had to say before. That's fine that you restate them, but that shouldn't be all that you do. Avoid phrases like in conclusion, to conclude, because your essay is about to end, but you don't want to call attention to the obvious. And certainly you don't want to apologize for what you've done. Again, this comes from the Writing Center at Harvard. It provides useful information about how to end an essay. You'll find the handout on the conclusion page at the bottom. You can download it, and you can also access the website. And notice again, the purpose is to return to the main point. It is to answer the question, so what? It is to create a relationship between this idea and other ideas. And here are the possible strategies that you can use. The outline asks you to name the strategy and give an example of how you would use that strategy for your paper. Once you've planned your paper, starting with the thesis, the main idea, choosing your organization, deciding what point you made, now you want to come back and choose something that is going to get the attention of the reader. It's called a hook. The handout that you had has a little hook at the top, a clip art hook, because it serves the purpose of capturing the reader's attention, making them want to move forward with what you have to say, making them want to read your paper. The following are ways that you can do this. You can relate the topic to recent news. You can justify your qualifications to write the essay. You can use a story. And again, if you do, conclude it in the conclusion. You can use a striking contrast. You can ask a question. And even though your textbook says you may, do not address the reader as you. You may use a surprising fact or statistic, an interesting quotation. You may use dialogue, a conversation, which is sort of like a part of a story. Or you can make a compelling statement to challenge your reader. All of these come from your textbook on page 408. These are the strategies for hooking the reader. And I want to give you some examples. The essay topic was comparing and contrasting print books to electronic books. So I could relate it to a topic that was in the news. Amazon offered a book for free. So I could suggest that that was being able to get a book for free on an e-reader would be one way that I could hook my reader's attention. I can justify qualifications. Because I own and read both types of books, I can use that to hook my reader. As a reader of both types, I'm certainly qualified to give an opinion about the two types of books. I can give a story or an incident. My husband gave me an e-reader because I like to read, and because if we go on a trip, I can carry one book with me rather than carry several to choose from, because it is one of my hobbies. We can use a striking example. I can say making something easier may be a good idea, but what if it leaves the very essence of that thing behind? I can ask a question. Why would someone not prefer faster, easier, and lighter? I can use a surprising fact or statistic. The fact that Gutenberg in the 1400s revolutionized the distribution of printed material. In 1971, Michael Hart is credited with inventing the e-book, and now there are 38,000 free books that have expired copyrights or copyright holder permission to share. A surprising fact or statistic to catch my reader's attention. I can use an interesting quote. I went to quotationspage.com, and if I scroll down, you can see that I can give you any number of interesting quotes that relate to reading or to books. All of these are methods for catching the reader's attention. For your assignment, you are to choose a strategy and give a couple of examples. You may choose one strategy and give 2 examples, or you may choose 2 different strategies and example for each one of those. How can you hook the reader's attention so that they would want to read what you have written?